Hi there, thanks for joining me. In this Repricer.com video, we're going to take a look at our automations feature. When it comes to running a business, the most important thing is to make the most out of every second you have. You can't be running a busy business if you're constantly moving about rules based on your competition and results. This is where automations comes in. Using Repricer's automations feature, you can have your products automatically move from one rule to another based on various criteria that you set. These could be as simple as sales and orders, stock quantity, fulfillment status, and many, many more. Let's take a look at the automations now. Click Automations on the left-hand side of your screen. From here, we'll just choose to create a new automation. When creating a new automation, the first thing you need to do is give it a name. Strange, isn't it? Next, each automation is tied to a specific channel, so you need to choose which you'd like it to apply to. With that done, we move on to the triggers, and this is where the real fun begins. Automations work by checking each hour your selected triggers, and if your automation is triggered, your product will move from one rule to another. It sounds simple, and really it is, but it is really powerful. Now we have a whole ton of triggers, so I'm not going to go through all of them, though we do explore many more of them in other videos on the channel. I will, however, open up a few of the common ones and we'll discuss them. Then we'll create our own automation. Where better to start than right at the top? Here we have the haven't won buy box feature. And what it allows you to do is to say, if you haven't won the buy box in so many days, trigger. This is great for automating your products based on your success in winning the buy box or not. Next, let's talk about orders and sales. These two are birds of a feather. Orders refers to the units sold, while sales refers to the amount that you make from the sale. Think of it as units versus dollars. With these, you can set your automation to trigger based on how many sales or orders you've got. This could be greater than, lesser than, or even sales increases and decreases over time. I'm sure you can see how powerful this is whenever you want to move to a more competitive rule when your sales aren't as high as you'd like. Let's also have a look at date and time. Date and time does exactly what it says on the tin. It allows you to set up an automation to trigger based on the day and the time of day. This means that you can automatically move from one rule to another for set periods of the week. So those are just a few of the triggers. There are tons more, and we do have other videos on the channel that explore them. So I'd encourage you to have a look at some of those. Moving on, we need to determine how the rule part of the automation works. The first drop-down allows you to choose which rules are targeted by the automation. You can have this target one specific rule, or multiple rules, or even all of your rules. Our second drop-down allows you to set which rule you'd like your automation to go to. And finally, we need to determine what happens when the trigger no longer applies. You can have it automatically go back to the previous rule, or just stay on the rule it's on. Something that's important to note is that we'll only revert the last automation triggered. This does mean if you have a series of automations, it won't revert back the whole way. So those are the required settings for an automation. Let's have a look at the automation we've just created. So when the automation runs, it will activate for any products that haven't won the buy box in the past 7 days and haven't sold at least 20 units in the past 30 days. It will trigger on any of our rules and move the product to our EOS rule. If the triggers no longer apply, it will revert back to the original rule. Aha! I tricked you! You thought we were finished with our automations, didn't you? Afraid not, we have some optional settings to also take a look at. Let's move on to the Timings tab and our first setting, the lock period. This allows you to determine a minimum period of time that your product will remain on the rule it's been moved to by an automation. This is a way of avoiding your products constantly jumping between different automations. For our second option, you may want to lock all your automations to say 5 days. But there may be one automation you specifically want to trigger anyway, no matter what, it will always trigger. That's where the break lock period comes in. What it does is it means that even if your product has been locked by another automation, if this automation runs, it will break that lock period and automate anyway. Our final options are pretty self-explanatory. It allows you to set a start and an end date for when this automation will run. Outside of that period, the automation is effectively turned off and doesn't operate at all. And no trick this time, this is us really finishing up with automations. What I'd now recommend you do is have a little play with the automations. I'm sure at this stage you can see why it's so powerful and it could really save you some time, as well as helping you be even more competitive. We do have a number of other videos on the channel which explore specific triggers in detail and even show you methods that you can use them specifically. If you'd like a hand with your automations, do get in touch with our support team. We'll be more than happy to help. If you haven't started your free trial with Repricer yet, we offer one free for 14 days, no credit card required. Or why don't you sign up a demo with one of our helpful team? Thanks for joining us today and have a great day.